live in a world full of division. People constantly judge each other based on appearances. Many people look down on others who think, look, act, speak, and even believe different things than them. We also live in a world full of insecurity. Many people hide their true selves, their thoughts, opinions, and ideas out of fear of being judged. Hate and insecurity are huge problems in the worlds of today and yesterday. They stem from each other, and their impacts will spin out of control in an endless cycle until we can find a way to stop them. To eliminate hate, we must eliminate insecurity. And to eliminate insecurity, we must eliminate hate. I think that the first step should be understanding ourselves. We must accept ourselves before we can accept others and be accepted by others. What if the solution to fitting in was simply to stop trying? I was a weird kid. My favorite game wasn't chess, soccer, Barbies, or even Mario Kart. It was mining. Yeah, you heard that right. My favorite game when I was between the ages of 4 and 8 years old was mining. My parents would hide these brightly colored plastic gems all over the guest bedroom of our basement, and I would snap on my bright pink headlamp to go look for them. I could spend hours on my hands and knees looking for these little tiny gems while my parents hid them again and again. To be fair, this weird game probably stemmed from my intense interest in Montana history. Yeah, isn't that boring class you might have had to take during middle school? I agree, it was really weird. I also spent a lot of time reading books about ghosts in Montana. At one point, I think I had 10 of those books that you see at gas stations called things like Ghosts of Montana, Spirits of the West. It was strange. I started kindergarten with the expectation of having a totally stereotypical school experience. I pictured myself riding the big yellow bus to a huge fancy school with a big playground where I would make new friends and learn how to read. There were a couple flaws in this plan. The first was that I lived too close to the school to ride the bus, so my mom would walk me there and back every day. The school also wasn't big or fancy, and the playground was, in my opinion, way less fun than my favorite park. The final and biggest failure was probably the whole make new friends plan. I was horrible at talking to kids my own age. I mean, between the Montana history infatuation, constant insistence that every building I was in was haunted, and the weird habit I had of barking at people when I was angry, I wasn't much of a conversationalist. I struggled like this until probably 4th or 5th grade, and even then, the friends that I made didn't want anything to do with me outside of class. I started middle school, again, with the expectation of a totally stereotypical school experience. Yikes. I was pleasantly surprised. I had changed schools in 2nd grade to a combined elementary and middle school. This made this transition a lot easier because I wouldn't have to learn everything about a new school or meet very many new people. It also made the whole make new friends plan way harder because of the problem the school had with cliques. Now, don't get me wrong, they weren't anything like what you see in movies or on TV. They were just close-knit enough that it was really, really awkward to try to join one. So, I started 6th grade, and I decided that I was finally going to become popular. I started blow-drying my hair flat, wearing makeup, and listening to so much Taylor Swift. Like, a lot. It was bad. And, believe it or not, that did absolutely nothing. I was at a total loss. I had tried everything that I saw my peers do, and I still didn't fit in. And then it hit me. Wait a minute. This is middle school. Nobody cares if I have friends. So I stopped trying to fit in. I quit the basketball team and started acting and discovered my passion for public speaking. I realized that once I stopped trying to be what everybody else wanted me to be, it got a lot easier to talk to people. By the time I started high school, I actually had a group of friends who liked me and respected me for who I was. Okay, that's enough about me. I know what you're thinking. Oh, great, I'm here for inspiration, and all I got was this pathetic 15-year-old girl's whole life story. Yay. Actually, I agree. Why are you listening to me other than the fact that I'm standing up here on this big stage with a microphone stuck to the side of my face, and you guys are all a kind of a captive audience? I do think that this is a real issue. I think that there's so much pressure for people to fit in and act a certain way that the people who really have the potential to change the world end up getting squashed under society's expectations. Society will not change until the individuals change, and the individuals will not change until they are informed. That's why I'm here today, is to inform you. First, we'll take a look at some of the ways that societal expectations and negative stereotypes can tear people apart, before examining a solution that could bring us all back together. Have you ever heard of the theory of multiple intelligences? First proposed by a man named Howard Gardner, this theory essentially states that people can be smart in more areas than what is traditionally considered book smart. These include math, language, music, nature, interpersonal relationships, self-reflection, and even existential issues. According to Gardner, people can have any combination of these types of intelligence, which leads to the diverse variety of skills and personalities we see in our world today. The problem with this theory lies not with the theory itself, but with the way that it is perceived by society, particularly by the school system. People with mathematical and linguistic intelligence are typically the only ones perceived as smart, because their abilities are much easier to measure using standardized tests and assessments. A teacher would much likely have a way easier time determining if a student was mathematically intelligent, as opposed to if a student was, say, existentially intelligent. This lack of recognition often leads to people with these other types of intelligence feeling stupid. As Albert Einstein once aptly put it, everybody is a genius. But if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing that it is stupid. Another factor with the power to totally alienate someone is their external appearance. As a teenage girl, I spend way more time than I would like to admit worrying about what I look like. And believe it or not, this problem is not limited to teenage girls such as myself. In fact, I would bet real money that every person sitting in my audience today has felt at one point or will feel in the future insecure about the way that they look. Now, there are a variety of factors that contribute to these feelings, but the media in today's world is largely the most prominent. Social media particularly is a huge source of these feelings. Apps like Instagram, TikTok, and Snapchat are used to share every facet of a person's everyday life. And as you might have noticed, most people actually use these to share idealized versions of themselves and their experience. Even with this knowledge, it's hard to avoid comparison to total strangers on the internet. Beyond social media, and even before the invention of the internet and most modern technology, these ideas have been being pushed out since the very beginning of mass-produced media. Magazines showed the hottest trends and innovations while promoting inefficient ways to lose weight and make money fast. TV shows such as the America's Next Top Model showed the reality behind the modeling and beauty industry while inadvertently promoting its harmful standards. Yikes. Essentially, we're constantly flooded with a huge amount of information that seems to constantly scream, "You aren't good enough." So, if the problems that we're facing today come from other people's perceptions of us, what can we even do to fix them? It's a two-word answer: self-acceptance. Now, these are definitely buzzwords today, and you've probably heard them in TikTok videos and articles about mental health. One such article from Anderson University states, "Self-acceptance requires one to accept all parts of self, rough and smooth edges, strengths and weaknesses and insecurities," unquote. Self-acceptance allows us to improve our mental health by letting us see that we deserve to be loved despite our flaws, and it improves our relationships with others by allowing us to look beyond our own flaws and insecurities to make a meaningful connection with the people around us. What does that even mean? To me, self-acceptance means doing what I like and what makes me happy, regardless of what other people think. It means sharing my thoughts, ideas, and opinions, even if people might not agree with me. It means dressing the way that I like to dress, even if I look silly, which most of the time, I do. I'm not a perfect person, and that's okay. Beyond myself, I think that self-acceptance is incredibly important for everyone. There are approximately 8.3 billion people on Earth right now, and no two are exactly the same. Everybody has their own thoughts, personalities, and experiences that make them who they are. Our world is completely unique, and the problems that we face are unique too. The people who are going to solve these problems aren't the type of people who fit into the perfect cookie-cutter mold that society has laid in place for us. They're like the problems. They're unique. So, if you're anything like me, being bombarded with a bunch of information that's meant to be positive and inspirational probably isn't the most effective way to convince you of, well, anything? So instead of me standing up here and telling you that you need to be positive and love yourself, I'm going to give you a challenge. At some point in the next week, I want you to do something that makes you a little bit uncomfortable. It could be trying out a new hairstyle, wearing ugly socks, or even complimenting a stranger. It doesn't matter what exactly you do as long as it makes you happy. At the end of the week, reflect on the change that you made and examine if it has made a positive impact in your life. If it has, great, do it again. And if not, don't be afraid to try something else. Remember, the most important thing is that you are doing something for yourself without worrying about what other people are going to think of you. And the most important piece of advice that I could possibly give you, from one weird kid to another, just be you. Thank you.